My stepsister humiliated me at a baby shower by spreading lies about my husband. A couple weeks later, I exposed her affair with a married man right in front of her friends and family. I've always been a patient woman, which is probably what makes the moments when I snap all the more satisfying. I spent most of my life playing the part of the calm, collected one. I was the one who never showed anger, who knew exactly when to smile and when to hold my tongue. But that day, my baby shower, was different. The atmosphere was thick with expectation, everyone's eyes on me, and I should have felt like the star of the show, right? But it was hard to ignore the sharp sting in the air, that subtle weight that made everything seem like it was just a little off. I had spent weeks planning this day. I carefully selected the decorations, chose the right playlist, and made sure the guest list was exactly as I wanted. I even picked out a beautiful white dress, the kind that accentuates a pregnant woman's curves just enough to make her feel like a queen. My husband, Ben, was by my side, always supportive. He was there, smiling, holding my hand, looking at me with that gentle gaze that made me feel like everything would be okay. We were about to bring a new life into the world, and nothing should have ruined that moment. But then, she showed up. Vanessa, my stepsister. I've never understood why people keep toxic people close, but I guess I never had much of a choice. Our parents insisted we spend holidays together, so I pretended to like her, pretending to be part of the happy family. That's what you do when you're the bigger person, right? But Vanessa wasn't like me. She always had to be the center of attention. She always had to have the last word. She always found a way to make everything about her. And when the time came, when everyone was gathered around the punch bowl, laughing and chatting, I saw her slide into the middle of the circle with that smug, self-satisfied smile she wears when she knows something others don't. I had seen it too many times before. "Did you hear?" she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The group fell silent as she paused, knowing she had their attention. "I've heard rumors about Megan's marriage. You know, they say the baby isn't even Ben's. Can you believe that?" There it was. The words hung in the air like poison. Everyone went still. I felt the room tilt slightly, like the world around me was shifting, and suddenly, I was the center of their attention. My stomach twisted, but I held my breath. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing my reaction. I had to be careful. I couldn't let the rage show, not yet. "Vanessa," I said, my voice steady, my smile perfectly controlled. "I think there's been some sort of misunderstanding. Ben and I are happy, and everything's fine." I could see her eyes flicker. She wasn't expecting that. She wanted me to yell, to get upset, to defend myself in front of everyone, but I wouldn't give her that. Not today. "Well, I guess we'll see how things go, won't we?" Vanessa said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. I could hear the smirk in her words, the way she enjoyed the power she held in that moment. She was looking for validation, looking to see how others would respond. I forced a laugh, light and airy, as if nothing had happened. "I'm sure everything will be just fine." I gently squeezed Ben's hand, trying to keep him calm as I felt his grip tighten in response. We tried to go on with the party, but the damage had already been done. The room was tense, the whispers had already started, the quiet murmurings behind hands and glances that spoke louder than any words ever could. Later, when the guests had left, and Ben and I were alone, the silence between us was thick. I sat down on the couch, feeling the weight of what had just happened. Ben stood in the doorway, his brow furrowed. "Megan, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve that." I don't know what she was thinking. But I couldn't focus on his apology. I could barely look at him. My mind was racing. Vanessa had crossed a line. This wasn't just gossip. It was an attack, aimed directly at my reputation, at everything I had worked so hard to build. But as furious as I was, I knew better than to let that fury rule me. I had to play this carefully. I had to be smarter than her. I couldn't just lash out and risk making a fool of myself. So, I sat back, took a deep breath, and silently made my decision. This wasn't over. not by a long shot. I was going to get my revenge, but on my terms. She had humiliated me in front of everyone, but soon, everyone would know the real truth about Vanessa, the truth she didn't want anyone to know. And when I was done, no one would look at her the same way again. But for now, I kept my calm. I smiled, took Ben's hand, and said, "Let's just forget about it. It's not worth our time." Inside, though, I was already planning how to turn the tables. The weeks after the baby shower felt like a fog, the kind that makes everything seem distant, blurry. I carried on with my days, distracting myself with the little tasks of preparing for the baby, making sure Ben and I were aligned on every decision. But beneath it all, the fire of what Vanessa had done simmered quietly. I could almost feel it in my bones, a slow burn that I kept hidden from everyone. I had learned long ago that revenge, real revenge, isn't about shouting or confronting people right away. It's about patience, about letting the people who wronged you think they're getting away with it. Vanessa had no idea what was coming. I spent my days pretending nothing had changed, pretending I wasn't plotting her downfall. But each time I saw her or heard about her, whether it was through mutual friends or overheard gossip at work, I kept collecting pieces of the puzzle. I observed her, noting her every move, every word, and I wasn't the only one noticing her. People were beginning to talk. Vanessa's affair with James wasn't exactly a secret. At least, it wasn't among the people who mattered. James was married too, and though she thought she was being clever, hiding behind her flirtations and late-night work sessions, the whispers were starting to get louder. But she wasn't aware that I had the final piece to her puzzle, the incriminating photos, the texts, the emails. They were all in my possession, carefully tucked away on my phone, like a secret weapon waiting to be used. Vanessa had humiliated me publicly, made a fool of me in front of people who once admired me. She had no idea that I was biding my time. I wasn't going to let her destroy me, not when I had everything I needed to destroy her reputation in return. I still had a long way to go. I knew I had to plan the perfect counterattack, one where Vanessa wouldn't see it coming. So, I decided to invite her to a party. She won't expect it, I muttered to myself, pacing around the living room. I picked a date, an excuse for a party that would seem harmless at first. It would be a Thanksgiving party, something casual, no big deal, just a group of friends and family gathering to give thanks. But the real purpose? To turn the tables on her. I had already called a few of her closest friends and a couple of colleagues who knew her secret. I made sure to ask just the right questions. Did you hear about Vanessa and James? It's funny, isn't it? I wonder if anyone else knows. With every whisper, every conversation, the atmosphere started to shift. People began to feel uneasy around Vanessa. I could see it in their eyes when they looked at her, uncertainty, hesitation, the beginning of doubt. And all the while, Vanessa had no idea. She was too busy enjoying the spotlight, basking in the attention she craved. She didn't realize that she was becoming the target. She thought she was the hunter, but she had no idea that the trap was already set. The night of the party arrived, and Vanessa walked in with that same smug look on her face, the one that had driven me mad for so long. She was dressed in that outfit she thought was so flawless, the one that screamed I'm in control. But she wasn't in control, not anymore. I greeted her warmly at the door, giving her the same fake smile she had once used to embarrass me. I'm so glad you could make it. It's going to be a great night. She raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting anything unusual. As the guests gathered, I carefully steered the conversation. I asked the right questions, made the right comments, dropped just the right hints. The tension in the air was palpable as Vanessa tried to keep up her usual facade of confidence, but there was a crack in it. Every time someone asked her a question, every time the conversation turned, she looked more and more uncomfortable. The whispers, the subtle glances, everything was working in my favor. You know, one of her friends said, laughing awkwardly, it's strange. I thought Vanessa was getting pretty close to James lately. She was always with him at work. Vanessa stiffened, the fake smile faltering for a moment. "What do you mean by that?" she asked, her voice tight. "Oh, nothing," the friend said quickly, her eyes darting nervously. Just strange how she spends so much time with him. Anyway, it's good to see you both tonight." I watched it all, enjoying the way the net was slowly tightening around her. Vanessa didn't realize it yet, but every word, every comment was like a slow poison, sinking deep into the heart of her carefully constructed world. People were beginning to connect the dots, and Vanessa was starting to unravel. The best part? She couldn't do anything to stop it. I had planted the seeds, and now I just had to watch as they took root. The night wore on, and I could almost taste the triumph in the air. Vanessa had gone from being the center of attention to a quiet observer, her movements stiff and her laughter forced. I watched her as she clung to her usual group of friends, trying to hold on to whatever confidence she could muster, but it was clear she was no longer in control. The whispers had already started to take root. At one point, she cornered me by the drinks table, a frown creasing her brow. "What's going on here, huh?" she asked, her tone tight with barely disguised anger. "You've been acting all weird. It's like you're setting me up for something." I feigned innocence, taking a sip of my drink. "Setting you up? No, I'm just having fun with everyone. After all, what's a party without some good gossip?" I gave her a smile, the kind that looked sweet but carried an edge. "You know how people talk, right?" Vanessa stiffened, but I could see the doubt creeping into her eyes. I was playing the game perfectly. I wasn't about to let up. This was my moment, the time to make her question everything around her. She had humiliated me once, and now I was the one in control. The guests were buzzing with curiosity, and one by one, they began to drop little comments, tiny, seemingly innocent remarks that planted seeds of doubt in Vanessa's mind. I didn't need to say anything directly. I had orchestrated it so perfectly that all I had to do was sit back and watch the chaos unfold. Her colleague, Sarah, approached me later in the evening. Sarah had always been the type to keep quiet about the office gossip, but tonight, she was a different person. She caught me alone in the kitchen, away from Vanessa. "I heard something," Sarah said, lowering her voice. "Vanessa, she and James, there's something going on between them, isn't there?" I looked at her, pretending to be surprised. "James? Oh, I don't know. Why would you think that?" Sarah glanced over her shoulder before continuing. It's all over the office. People are talking, but you know how it is, right? Office rumors." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. Rumors, always so damaging. I mean, it's just hard to believe something like that, right? It could ruin both of them. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to the door where Vanessa was chatting with someone. "I don't know, but it's starting to get out of hand. People are starting to think it's more than just rumors. I thought you should know." I gave Sarah a reassuring smile, my heart racing with satisfaction. The seeds I had planted were growing stronger. It wasn't just me now, it was everyone. Vanessa was slowly becoming the talk of the party, and she didn't even realize how much damage had been done. I glanced over at Vanessa, who was talking to a group of her friends. Her eyes were darting nervously from one face to the next, the cracks in her armor becoming more apparent by the minute, but she still held on, still tried to project that false image of confidence. The evening wore on, but I could tell she was unraveling. The guests, once light-hearted and playful, were now quieter, exchanging glances when Vanessa wasn't looking. It was a quiet shift, but it was palpable. They were starting to put the pieces together. As the night progressed, I made sure to guide the conversations. I kept the rumors flowing, carefully dropping little details, making sure everyone had a piece of the puzzle. Slowly, the truth started to emerge, pieces falling into place, one after the other. Vanessa began to feel it. She could feel the shift in the room. Her discomfort was palpable as she realized that people were talking behind her back, exchanging whispers she couldn't control. But but she still didn't know how deep the web had been spun. And then, it happened, the final blow. One of Vanessa's closest friends, Amanda, approached me with a nervous look on her face. "I don't want to cause trouble," she said quietly, "but I have to ask you something. Did you know about James and Vanessa?" I raised an eyebrow, feigning confusion. "What do you mean?" Amanda swallowed hard, glancing around before leaning in closer. "People are saying she's been sleeping with him for months, that they've been sneaking around behind everyone's back. I don't know if it's true, but I thought you should know. It's not just office gossip anymore." I took a deep breath, my mind racing. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. The perfect opportunity to reveal the truth without a single shout or accusation. No confrontation, just the cold, hard facts. "I know," I said quietly, "and I have proof." Amanda's eyes widened in shock. "You have proof?" I nodded. "It's all in my phone, texts, emails, photos, everything." I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. "I've kept it to myself for now, but I think it's time to let everyone know the truth." Amanda looked torn, but the moment was already slipping away. Vanessa's secret, the one she had tried so desperately to keep hidden, was about to be exposed. I didn't need to say more. The tension in the room was palpable. The whispers had turned into murmurs, and soon, everyone would know what Vanessa had done, and her reputation would crumble before her eyes. The night had reached its peak, and I could see the final act unfolding before my eyes. Vanessa had no idea that the floor was slipping out from beneath her. She was still holding on to that facade of confidence, but it was cracking more with each passing minute. The whispers had become full-blown rumors, and every single guest in the room was beginning to put the puzzle pieces together. I could almost hear the thoughts racing through her mind. She was trying to hold on to control, trying to salvage what little dignity she had left, but it was too late. The rumors had taken on a life of their own. There was no turning back. I took a deep breath, watching her from across the room. She was nervously clutching her drink, a forced smile on her face, pretending everything was fine. But I knew, she knew, the tension was unbearable. Then, I saw Sarah approach. She was pale, her face twisted with a mixture of concern and guilt. She had always been one of Vanessa's close friends, but now, Sarah was slowly starting to pull away from her, just like everyone else. Sarah looked at me and then glanced at Vanessa, who was standing by the window, staring out at the night. "I don't think she knows what's happening," Sarah whispered, her voice shaky. "I don't think she realizes how much damage is being done." "I think she knows exactly what's happening," I replied, my voice calm and steady. "She's just hoping she can still control it, but we both know that's not going to happen." Sarah nodded, her eyes wide with unease. "What should we do now?" I smiled, a small, knowing smile. "We let her fall. It's not our job to fix her. She's done enough damage on her own. It's time for her to face the truth." And then it happened, the moment I'd been preparing for, the moment Vanessa had been dreading without even realizing it. It was as if the air in the room suddenly shifted. People started to gather, forming little clusters of conversation. The low murmur of voices grew louder, and I could feel the weight of the room shift, all eyes turning toward Vanessa. "Everyone," I called out, raising my glass, "I have something I'd like to say." The room fell silent, and all eyes were on me. Vanessa looked at me, her eyes narrowing with confusion. She hadn't expected this, she hadn't seen it coming. I could feel the satisfaction simmering beneath the surface. I wasn't just revealing her secret, I was watching her crumble from the inside out, and I wasn't lifting a finger to help her. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight," I continued, my voice steady, each word carefully measured. "But I also want to make something clear. There are things happening around us that are better left unsaid, things that have been brewing under the surface for a long time." I paused, letting the silence hang in the air like a thick fog. Vanessa's face had gone pale, her hand trembled as she gripped her glass, her lips parting as if she was about to speak, but nothing came out. I'm sure most of you have heard rumors about my marriage, about my husband, and about things that have happened behind closed doors. I went on, my tone now laced with the perfect balance of feigned sadness and quiet strength. But what no one knows is the truth that someone here has been hiding, someone who thought they could ruin my reputation and tear my life apart. I let my gaze linger on Vanessa for a beat, savoring her discomfort. She shifted on her feet, but I could see the cracks in her mask now. The fear was starting to show. I won't say much more, but I think it's time for the truth to come out, I said, my eyes locking onto hers. Vanessa, I know all about you and James. Vanessa froze, her breath caught in her throat, her face turning a shade paler. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. The room was still. No one moved. Everyone was watching, waiting for the next move. I've been holding on to something for a while, I continued, now fully in control. I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't want to ruin your reputation. But you left me no choice. You thought you could tear my marriage apart, but it's you who has been living a lie. Vanessa's eyes darted to Sarah, to Amanda, to anyone who might offer her an escape, but no one spoke. No one was coming to her defense anymore. I have proof, I said simply, pulling out my phone and holding it up for the room to see. Text messages, photos, everything you've done with James. I know about your affair, Vanessa, and I know exactly what you've been hiding. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Vanessa staggered back, her hands trembling, and I could see her trying to gather herself, but it was too late. The truth was already out. The room was silent for a long moment. No one knew what to say. I let the tension linger, giving everyone the time to process the gravity of what had just been revealed. Then, the whispers started. One guest, then another. They began to speak, piecing the story together, filling in the gaps. Every word they spoke, every question they asked, added to the unraveling of Vanessa's facade. Her reputation, which she had spent so long building, was crumbling, piece by piece, before her eyes. Vanessa was no longer the center of attention. No one cared about her drama anymore. All eyes were on her as she stood there, the truth laid bare for everyone to see. I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear her voice cracking as she finally found her words. "Why, you can't do this," she stammered. You're lying." I shook my head slowly. "No, Vanessa, I'm not lying. You're the one who's been lying to everyone." I turned to the guests, my voice now commanding and unwavering. "I think we all know who the real villain is in this story, and I think we've all seen enough." I turned back to Vanessa, my gaze cold. "It's over. Your secret is out, and you've lost." And with that, I walked away, leaving her standing in the center of the room, her world falling apart around her. The guests were still murmuring, but I could tell it didn't matter anymore. Vanessa's reputation was shattered, and there was no coming back from this. I had won, cold, calculated, and without a single loud word, just the truth.